In this video, we will look at unemployment. After watching this video, you will be able to identify the formula used to calculate U3 or the unemployment statistics reported in the media. Identify the components of other measurements of unemployment tracked by the government. Identify the impact of education on unemployment. Define and apply the definition of various types of unemployment. Define the terms natural rate of unemployment and full employment. Explain the relationship between unemployment and GDP. Before starting on the material, here are some worthy quotes about unemployment. An acceptable level of unemployment means that the government economist to whom it is acceptable still has a job, and that's anonymous. It's a recession when your neighbor loses his job. It's a depression when you lose your job. And that was Harry S. Truman, U.S. President, 1945 to 1952. The Great Depression, like other periods of severe unemployment, was produced by government mismanagement rather than any inherent instability of the private economy. Milton Friedman, Nobel Prize winner, Economics, 1976. We believe that if men have the talent to invent new machines that put men out of work, they have the talent to put those men back to work. John F. Kennedy, U.S. President. I do not believe we can repair the basic fabric of society until people who are willing to work have work. Work organizes life. It gives structure and discipline to life. Bill Clinton, U.S. President. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics reports the statistics for unemployment on the first Friday of each month, which is known in economic circles as U3. The U.S. Bureau of Economic Statistics using the formula of unemployed divided by the number of workers in the workforce. While the statistic seems to be a simple and straightforward measure of unemployment, there are a number of assumptions that are being made by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's look at the formula and understand what the assumptions are behind it. First, let's look at the denominator, the part on the bottom part of the division sign. The number of individuals who are in the labor force include U.S. residents, and this includes permanent residents, individuals with permanent resident card, also known as the green card. Next, the Bureau deducts or subtracts those U.S. residents who are under age 16. Presumably they're in high school and not working. Next, the Bureau subtracts individuals who reside in institutions, specifically prisoners and the mentally disabled individuals. Next, the Bureau of Statistics subtracts off members of the military and members of the reserves who are on active duty. Finally, the Bureau subtracts adult residents who are not looking for a job. So what does it mean to be looking actively for a job? According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, an individual is unemployed if the individual does not have a job, is actively looking for a job by contacting employers, having job interviews, sending out resumes, filling out applications, checking registries, or engaging in other type of active job search. And 3, they must be currently available for work. However, there are some individuals who don't have a job but are not considered unemployed by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Let's look at these individuals. A discouraged worker is an individual who has stopped looking for a job because he or she has grown tired of constantly being rejected by potential employers. This situation may be particularly true of older employers who worked on the assembly line or producing commodities like steel. Since discouraged workers are not counted as part of U3, during the recession, the unemployment rate may be underestimated because discouraged workers are not counted part of the statistics. In addition, the unemployment might be overestimated during growth in the economy because many discouraged workers may return to the labor force attracted by the prospect of becoming employed. A marginally attached worker is a worker who has been out of work for 12 or more months but has not searched for a job in the last 4 weeks. A marginally attached worker may feel that the current job situation in his or her field is not good, and thus might take a month off before resuming the search. Or they may temporarily be discouraged from seeking employment. Marginally attached workers have the same impact on unemployment rate as discouraged workers, underestimating it during recessions and overestimating it during recoveries. The official definition of unemployed is is that they at least have a part-time job, but what full-time job. A general description of underemployed individual is a person who takes a job beneath their skill level. Thus, a licensed surgeon who does not practice medicine but works full-time at a fast food person is underemployed. However, it is important to note that the official Bureau of Labor Statistics definition does not recognize a surgeon at the fast food restaurant as being underemployed because he or she is working 40 hours. Underemployment tends to underestimate the employment rate because while individuals are working, they cannot be counted as being unemployed. Thus, even more important, individuals who are working 2 or 3 part-time jobs are still counted as being part-time because they are part-time at each job. Workers who are working in the underground or informal economy, the so-called black market, who lose their underground job, are never counted as being unemployed. Thus, the person who cuts lawns for cash and doesn't report the cash to the IRS and is not actively looking for a job in the formal sector is not counted as being unemployed. Finally, the definition does not tell us why an individual is unemployed. They may be unemployed because they work in an occupation where the work is only available part of the year, or they might be between jobs. They are working but currently not working while they're waiting for a new job to start. They might be unemployed because there's a change in the way the economy is structured, or they may be unemployed because there's a change in economic conditions. This video will look at this point after we look at some real-world data and a bit more at some of the definitions of unemployment by the U.S. Department of Labor Statistics. The U.S. Bureau of Labor has 6 measures of unemployment, including U3 talked about at the beginning of the video. Let's take a look at some more measures of unemployment calculated by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. U4 includes discouraged workers. U5 includes marginally attached workers. U6 includes marginally attached workers and those individuals who are employed part-time for economic reasons. Here's a graph that shows the 4 unemployment rates calculated by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. The light blue line with the diamond markers measures the official unemployment rate, or U3. It should come no surprise that it is the lowest of the 4 rates being measured because it is the most restrictive in terms of its definition, including only those workers who are unemployed and seeking work. U4 and U5 are higher than the official rate because they include additional numbers of workers, thus the discouraged workers for U4 and the marginally attached workers for U5. U6, which includes underemployed workers for economic reasons, is even higher because of the inclusion of part-time workers. There are 3 things you should strike you about this graph. As you may remember from the earlier in the video, U3 unemployment, which comes out the first Friday of the month, is one of the widely reported in the media. Notice that U3 seriously underestimates the number of individuals who are wanting to work full-time. When underemployment is counted as well as being unemployed, U6, the unemployment rate is almost twice what is reported in the media. During 2011, U3 averaged 8.7% and U6 averaged 15.3%, or U3 averaged 1 3/4 times as high as U3. Recently, media outlets have begun to focus on the plight of the discouraged worker. While their plight is indeed a concern, the rate of discouraged workers is only 0.6%, whereas the rate for underemployed workers is almost 5.4%, or 9 times as high. Let's take a minute to look at unemployment in education. Let's take a look at the graph put out annually by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics entitled Education Pays. On the left side of the graph shows the unemployment rate for individuals with various levels of education. In the center, the various levels of education are listed. And on the right-hand side shows the median earnings for various levels of education. Now let us take a more detailed look at the chart. Let's start with unemployment. Workers with less than a high school diploma have an unemployment rate of 14.1%. Workers with a high school diploma have an unemployment rate of 9.4%. Workers with some college but no degree have an unemployment rate of 8.7%. Workers with an associate degree have an unemployment rate of 6.8%. Individuals with a bachelor's degree have an unemployment rate of 4.9%. Individuals with a master's degree have an unemployment rate of 3.6%. Workers with a professional degree such as law, medicine, or dentistry have an unemployment rate of 2.4%. Workers with doctoral degrees have an unemployment rate of 2.5%. So let's look at the way economists break down unemployment and see how unemployment is naturally occurring. There are 4 types of unemployment. The first type is seasonal unemployment. This type of unemployment is the result of some jobs being available only during particular parts of the year. For example, places that are tourist destinations such as Mackinac City, Grayling, or Traverse City in the upper part of Michigan's Lower Peninsula are vacation destinations. As a result, from Memorial Day to Labor Day, individuals living in this area are employed in occupations related to tourism, such as room service, servers, attendants at various attractions, and clerks in gift shops. However, if you visit these cities during the winter, especially Mackinac City and Grayling, you may find that many of the shops are closed, many of the hotels are also closed, and many of the restaurants are closed. Individuals employed in these businesses are laid off for the winter. These are seasonally unemployed people. Frictional unemployment occurs when individuals who are not currently working but are waiting for a new job to start. An example of frictionally unemployed individuals are occupations like roofers, carpenters, who may not be working this week but will start work on a new project next week. Structural unemployment refers to unemployment where the skills of the workers don't match the skills the economy needs. For example, in Michigan, the need for unskilled factory workers is no longer very high, while the demand for healthcare workers, laboratory technicians, engineering technicians is very high. Since the need for assembly line workers is low, the workers are laid off and unemployed not because of economic reasons, but because their skills are no longer needed. Cyclical unemployment occurs when individuals have lost their jobs due to changing economic conditions. One consequence of these differing types of unemployment is that unemployment rate can never be 0%. Until recently, the focus of the U.S. and state governments has been cyclical unemployment, not structural, frictional, or seasonal. An interesting question also to ask is, what is a natural rate of unemployment? The unemployment rate, which includes seasonal, structural, and frictional unemployment, is called the natural rate of unemployment because it will always exist in a free market economy. The more formal definition is that the natural rate of unemployment is the unemployment that exists in the absence of changes in aggregate demand. As you may remember, aggregate demand is the sum of all demand for goods and services in an economy. So, when there is no shift to the right or the left of the aggregate demand curve, the unemployment rate quoted by the Bureau of Labor Statistics would be the natural rate of unemployment. Generally, economists assume that the natural rate of unemployment is about 5 to 6%. This means that unemployment should not fall below this point. And if it does, the economists will become nervous because this implies that there's a shortage of labor and labor's wages will increase. Since unemployment rate in May 2012 is 8.3% according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 2.3% to 3.3% of that unemployment is caused by economic conditions. Arthur Okun discovered that there was a relationship between unemployment and GDP. Specifically, he said that for every 1% increase in unemployment, GDP will decrease by 2 to 2.5%. This idea, for every 1% increase in unemployment leads to a 2 to 2.5% decrease in unemployment, is called Okun's law or Okun's rule of thumb. Thus, a 3.3% increase in unemployment, the current difference between the natural rate of unemployment and the actual rate of unemployment, is costing the U.S. between 6.6 and 8.25% increase in GDP. Okune's law makes the assumptions that worker productivity, or the amount of goods produced by a single worker, remains constant. As we saw on the previous slide, unemployment impacts the economy by lowering GDP. The difference between where GDP could be, or its potential, and the actual GDP is called the GDP gap. The potential GDP is the amount of output or consumption plus investment plus government spending plus net exports that the economy would experience if it were at its natural rate of unemployment. Actual GDP is the amount of GDP that is actually occurring in the economy. The GDP gap really tells us how much the economy could have increased during that time period if it were at the natural rate of unemployment. In this video you learned the formula used to calculate U3, or the unemployment statistic reported in the media. 2. The components of other measures of unemployment tracked by the U.S. government. 3. The impact of education on unemployment. 4. The definition of the various types of unemployment. 5. The term natural rate of unemployment. 6. The relationship between unemployment and GDP.